Hey guys, so I'm going to do a quick video on the Suffolk punch and colt range. So to start off with, Suffolks were released in the 1930s with a very early engine with, which you can tell that because of the shroud. Because on the early engines, they were basically just this bit of the shroud here. You see this little divider there that was just missing, just didn't have this bit here. So it was just that. The whole cylinder head was exposed, so those engines were really early ones. So yeah, they all had camels fuel tanks before 1960s, and they went to that kind of design. Yeah, just turn the fuel off on these. Some of them have a brass petrol tap, and some of them have a plastic one. This one's got a plastic one, but it still does the same job. Yeah. They do a good job. This colt's a 1950s colt, so this is the second generation of Suffolks. Which the colt was only a 12-inch model for domestic use. So yeah, there's a super colt which was later on, and that was for domestic and semi-professional use. But they're actually more common than these ones. This one's quite rare. But yeah, it's got a bit of rust on it. This engine mechanically is absolutely fine. I mean, no oil leaks anywhere. I'm going to strip it down and maybe put some new rings in it just to make it run even better. But yeah, or it needs a valve grinding and decoat. It's still slightly warm from when I was running it earlier. These engines do smoke a little bit. It's normal for Suffolks, but they'll run for hours and hours like that. But yeah. So after they'd done the Colt series, they revised it and they made a Colt like this, but 12-inch cut. The punch is for professional use and commercial use and heavy domestic use. So this is a domestic version of it. There's a 17-inch with 98cc Suffolk in it. This is a 98cc Suffolk engine. Don't have the deck for it, but here it is. And then it's basically like this, just about that much wider. It wasn't, well, maybe that much wider, so it wasn't much bigger. And those are the professional ones with dual drive and everything. The carbs are a Zenith T13 TCA2, and they all have that all through the Suffolk line, where some of them have a little fuel, instead of having this little bit here, they used to have a fuel union, or they wouldn't have this bit here. They have a little hole on the top of the carb and a fuel union, which is basically a bolt and a filter, a little round O-ring kind of thing, so where the fuel goes in. And then the fuel goes in through there. So yeah, this one should have a cow mount fuel tank, but I don't have it, unfortunately. But here, the engine's here. This one's later designed with that, and also the early ones had a different breather arrangement. If you look in that, you can see that very clearly. But that breather is held on by one bolt. Try and get a good view of that. Don't know if you can see that, so yeah, you can see that there's one bolt holding it on. That's an earlier model. The later models had two screws holding it on, which is what two of mine are like. That's the really old one. So yeah, this one's a good engine though. I like this little one. These older engines are more common than these newer ones on their own. But yeah, and with the older mowers, they're much more well built than these ones. This one's still steel, but it's just not as, you can tell it's not as, it's a different build quality. It's not as good as the older ones, but it's still a very good mower. They have this little, some of them had plastic recoils, some of them had metal recoils. So the plastic ones were later, and they tend to do that. And split down here and stop working. And they're a bit rubbish, Suffolk recoil starters. That's the only rubbish thing about these engines. They all have that kind of air clean stock. And yes, I'm doing this quickly because my iPod is running out of memory. So yeah, 98 was used on the bigger cut models, and they were for more professional use. They didn't have any difference, they're just larger capacity CC, but they were more powerful by a horsepower, because it's 2 horsepower at 3,000. That's 1 horsepower at 3,000. So yeah, these mufflers, they all have the same silencer. And little pipe there. This is the 98cc, which I'm going to restore. I might even get a 17-inch deck for it off eBay. I don't know if I can find one with a clutch and everything. Maybe with a bad engine, might buy it. It's got this particular 98. It's got good compression, good spark. When I got it from Bewley Auto Jumble, it had practically no compression because the the valves were a bit shot, and the rings were actually like replacements because they weren't heavily worn. They were just. This thing doesn't smoke at all. No smoke comes out there, even when you just start it. It starts very well, this one. You should have to. I'm gonna have to get a throttle cable or something to get on here. A throttle return spring for it, so I can do a throttle to start it, and then I can rev it down to idle. And yeah, that's the top adjustment screw. That's a side adjustment screw there. This is a earlier carb, because the late ones were smooth adjustment screws, and these ones you could do meant to be done with your hand. You just twist it by hand, but they tend to break off sometimes. But I don't want this carb to break off. I'm going to try and put this engine up on a shelf sometime. So, out of the way. But yeah, that was an overview of the Suffolk series.